Hey guys, users getting started with SharePoint keep asking me this question all the time. Samir, what's the difference between a list and a library? And I finally decided to create a video out of it. It's a basic thing, but important to know.
Let's take a look at what document libraries are and what is the difference between document libraries and lists. When you create a brand new site, there's always a document created, and you can see that in the left navigation. So this is basically a document library. And a document library is nothing but it's a special type of a list which is created specifically to store documents. And that's all it is. It has all the functionality around documents like document previewing, versioning, check-in, check-out, document approvals, file type breakdowns, etc. They can store any kind of documents, and those documents are searchable as long as SharePoint understands those documents, like Word and PDF documents. Let's take a look at the difference between document libraries and lists. The metadata in a document library defines the documents. When I say metadata, those are the columns. So the columns in a document library basically define the document which is stored. Whereas in a list, the documents which are attached to a list item, they define the list item in itself. And if that sounds pretty confusing, then let's take a look at this document library. This document library, as you can see, holds documents, and each record is a document in itself. Each record is a document in itself. Whereas in a list, and if I go to the employees list over here, I can see that each item over here is basically just a list of columns. And I can see that if I click on these attachments, if I click on this record, then it has two attachments. So it's basically this list item, and again, employees is a list, and then this list item, which is an employee, can have multiple documents, and these documents can be the same name as documents attached to any other list item. So I was just looking at Samir's documents, and now let's take a look at documents which have been attached with John, and both of them actually have the same name. Scroll down, and these are the same documents again. So the name is same, but these are two different documents which are stored on two different list items. But whereas if I go back to an employee files, which is a document library, the document names have to be unique. If you want to have documents with the same names stored in the same document library, then it has to be within folders. Like an example over here is, if I go to documents, then I have 1099 and W2 stored, but if I go into this test folder here, I can have the same document stored again, and it's just fine. But if you don't have folders, then every document library can have only unique file names. And you can see that if I try uploading a document which has the same name, like 1099, I hit on open, then I get the message saying a file with the name already exists. Would you like to replace the existing one? So if you have the same name of the file, and if you are trying to upload it to a document library, then either it's supposed to be overwriting the same file, or create a new folder if you want to create a folder, which I don't always recommend, and then upload the documents in the folder. Whereas in a list, I can select Mark, and he's already got 1099 and W2 as attachment, so let me go ahead and choose Dinesh over here, and then click on add attachments and upload 1099. Again, it's the same name, so there are almost like 5 records in here which have got documents with the same name, and SharePoint is just okay with that. And you can see the attachment right here. If I go inside contents over here, then employee files is a document library, form templates is a document library, and these are inbuilt document library. Site assets is a document library, style library is a document library, and the site pages, which host the list of all the pages that your website currently has, even that's a document library. But whereas calendar is a list, employees that we create is also a list, And so this is, and one of the things that I want to show you, and you can recognize this using this trick, you can recognize if it's a list or library is the URL in itself. So if I go back to employee files, employees list over here, then if I go in the URL and if I follow the URL through, then this is the employees list, this is the name of the list. And before a list, there's always going to be a list. You see that all the lists are basically stored within a list folder within SharePoint. And if I go to calendar in here, you're going to see the same thing. Calendar is stored within the lists within SharePoint itself. But whereas if I go to a document library, which is employee files here, then you can see that it's stored right under, there's no list prefix to it. It's not stored within the list. It's stored right within the SP training site in itself. So looking at the URL, you should be able to now recognize the difference between list and library as well.
If you like my video, don't forget to click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.